Happy Thursday to you, Tyler.
Oh, happy Thursday, Ronnie.
The weeks do fly by, though.
They are. They're flying by. I mean, we're in the middle of October now. Where has the time gone?
I have an intention for the beginning of my week because, as you know, I have a lot of side projects that also go on outside of Civic Center TV. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get that done and that done. And here it is Thursday.
Yeah. Oh, it happens all
I
the
haven't
time.
gotten any of it done.
No. No, you're like, all right, I got all these plans. I'm going to have time this week. I'm going to get it all done. And all of a sudden, you somehow lose track of time despite not wasting it.
I know. I think what it was is I went downstairs into our basement and started pulling out the Halloween decorations.
Oh, see, you got sidetracked with Halloween.
I did. And then I discovered a bin of all these new things that I bought last year on super clearance after Halloween that was like 90% off. I forgot all about them. So now I've got to rework everything.
Oh, well, you got spooky tasks.
Right, priorities, right?
Priorities, you know.
Priorities
you got 23 days left. It's not a lot of time.
But not in my neighborhood. Everyone already has everything up. I was feeling like a slacker in our neighborhood over there in Kegel Harbor. Halloween's a national holiday for our neighborhood, so you got to step up.
You do. Seems like it.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Tyler Keith. If you are tuning in for the first time, we say thank you. 7 months into this, though, I think for the most part, the people that know we're here are here each and every day. Others kind of tune in and catch us. As I drop my pen, catch us on the rebroadcast or on social media as well. But we always say thank you to everyone out there. And, of course, you can catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you do have cable, channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can also catch us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And then today we are also live streaming today's Megacast on the West Bloomfield Parks Facebook page, and we want to say thank you to them as well. So we are pretty much everywhere. We try to make it easy for you to find us and find all the information that we try to bring you each and every day. If for some reason you do miss this broadcast or you just don't have the 2 hours to try to tune in, Tyler and Jake spend the afternoon. They're not done.
No.
At noon I leave. They stay,
we're never
and that's when all the real work begins. Although for Tyler, real work is 24 hours.
Pretty much. That's fine.
But they do take the broadcast and they repost it, and as well as that, then they cut it down into clips, which is really great for the people who don't have the time to spend for 2 hours. You can just go to maybe that one interview. Brian Kelly had a great interview yesterday. He is now with the Small Business Association of Michigan. So many things are changing, Tyler, day by day with the Supreme Court decision. So it was good to hear from him as well. Yeah. So that's a good place for you to catch everything. Again, civiccentertv.com. Click on, and then you can either get previous editions of the Megacast or just the quick clips from our interviews if you can't tune in for the entire thing. You will also find the day's headlines. If you go up to the top of the page and you click on coronavirus, every morning before we hit the studio, we do post the latest headlines. And of course, the Michigan Senate today is going back into session. They're there to take up coronavirus-related orders nearly a week after the Michigan Supreme Court ruled to strike down Governor Gretchen Whitmer's executive orders. On Thursday, Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, who does not support statewide mask mandate, set to talk about what's next. Meanwhile, Whitmer, though, has had the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services step in to keep mask mandates in place. Health departments do have a sweeping authority during a pandemic. So we'll see what kind of comes out of the State House today as some of the lawmakers go back to work. There were so many other executive orders that do impact pretty much everything that we are doing, in some of those being unemployment benefits. Yeah. We've talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about it, and we even touched on it a little bit with Brian Kelly, but that's one of those big issues that Governor Whitmer had brought up at her press conference on Tuesday. Of course, that press conference was in regards to the elections, but it was unavoidable that somebody was going to talk to her about the Supreme Court decision, and it was inevitable, it was unavoidable for her to not speak about that in her speech at the beginning of that press conference as well. And unemployment was a huge sticking point for her. Other things that are up for question that were involved in her executive orders are the modifications of the Open Meetings Act, which allows local municipalities like who we cover here on Civic Center TV to continue to do their meetings virtually, or have to go back to in person, or be able to allow them some sort of hybrid where people have a choice. That's something that certainly could be up for question, and hopefully will be addressed before the end of this month, when some believe the governor's executive orders will expire, until we have indication of whether or not those are, as Brian Calley had presumed, immediate expirations or not. Well, that clarification is being asked and addressed. And then those regulations that are in place, are those going to be at the mercy of the health department on the state level, or is that going to be a local decision and solely a local decision? What parts of the governor's executive orders will continue on? That's going to be determined by the legislature, and they need to get to work on that really quickly, because as suddenly as the governor was able to start initiating these executive orders, the Supreme Court was just as swiftly able to strike them down.
And here's the thing, I do think when we're in situations like this, it kind of takes away from the confidence of the public in what we have in our elected leaders and their ability to lead us through this pandemic. Because, come on, we're 7 months into this. We should not still be going through this. And just like you said, Brian Calley is saying, and there are mixed messages, right? They're saying, hey, no, as of the day that they ruled that, 4:35 on Friday, these executive orders are no longer valid. However, the governor is stepping up saying she has 21 days. So there is a lack of confidence in our elected leaders to help navigate us through this pandemic.
And my key criticism of the legislature is you have been, particularly the caucus that has been arguing to have these powers be between the governor and the executive branch, and a legislative branch with the legislature, the House and the Senate. You should be prepared for this day. You know it could come or it could never come, but if it does, you need to be ready, because at that point, everybody's going to be looking at you, both caucuses of the House, both caucuses of the Senate, and saying, okay, executive orders are gone now. What are you going to do? We still need to protect our communities from COVID-19. We still need to have a state response. We can't go from 100 to 0 and expect nothing to change and nobody to be affected. Maybe we don't have as stringent of a response as we had under the governor's orders, but something has to be there to protect the state from the coronavirus, with some sort of regulation and some sort of response at the state level. So I think all eyes are on the legislature right now, and the clock is ticking on them. They don't have a lot of time before this goes from, okay, you got to adjust, and you got to adjust quickly, to you're taking way too much time, and we're starting to have a situation where we could have an influx of cases because there's no response.
Right. It's been a mess. And
it is.
I will tell you, as someone, I was a former PIO. There should have been so many plans in place that literally the second that decision came down, boom, direction went out.
Right.
And you should have had those plans in place, and just like the schools are doing, right, with all the different contingency plans. That should have been happening with our lawmakers.
At the state level, at the legislative level, and even at the executive level from the governor's office, knowing that there's always going to be a possibility that my executive orders under the Executive Powers of the Governor Act of 1945, despite being upheld by lower courts, could get up to the Supreme Court in the state of Michigan. That is currently much more conservative leaning, that could strike them down. If that's the case, my office needs to have an immediate response to that. It can't wait until Monday or Tuesday when I'm talking to the public. We need to get out in front of that as soon as possible, so that either A, we're controlling the narrative from our end, or B, we're showing some sort of leadership primarily from the state level despite this major change.
Yeah, especially the 21, it takes effect 21 days. The court should have made that clear as well. So over on CivicCenterTV.com as well, Count Day in Michigan schools actually happened yesterday, but there are major financial implications connected to Count Day. Their per pupil state aid is based on the mandated tally conducted twice in the school year. It happens in October and then again in February to try to track attendance within each school district. Due to the pandemic, districts across the state are conducting classes online, face-to-face, or a mix. Those differences in the methods have forced the state to try to change its funding formula this year to allow schools to get the most accurate attendance count. Prior to the pandemic, the per-pupil state aid was based on 90% of the fall count, combined with 10% in February. This year, though, the state is using a new super blend formula to determine district funding, and that formula is a weighted blend of 75% of last year's attendance, 25% of this year's attendance, which keeps school districts from being penalized if students left their district this fall for other learning plans. We've talked about this before. I mean, this is a school district's bottom line, and it's making it so hard for them to try to do these count days. Before, count day was huge.
Yeah.
I remember covering count day so many years in a row. They were giving out iPads and, just trying to do anything and everything that they could to get the kids into class on that one day because count day was so important. How do you do that when your kids are virtual? Or some days are virtual, some days are in class, some days they get to pick and choose in between. It's got to be such a challenge for all of these school districts, but so much is riding on it.
Yeah, it's critical for them right now because, like you said, their enrollment determines their state funding. And when enrollment goes down, school districts in regular times in that situation have to make major changes. When I was growing up, I was in the Bloomfield Hills School District. We currently broadcast with their radio station, WBFH, the BIF. And I remember when I was in 6th or 8th grade, they were going through some serious enrollment changes. Enrollment was extremely low throughout the district, and they were considering closing schools. They ended up doing that. They ended up considering that again as I was graduating, and they decided to consolidate into one high school and consolidate other schools as well in the meantime while they tried to continue their cost cutting in response altogether to the financial crises of 2008. And that was all due to enrollment. Enrollment cut the funding that much that adjustments had to be made or they'd be in a major loss. Same deal going on now for schools all throughout the state in a variety of different situations. Certainly in many cases, not as good of a situation as that particular school district was. And count day being as complicated as it is, on top of the teaching that these teachers have to be so stressed about and be modifying constantly in order to accommodate those in person, those virtually, and those in a hybrid situation. This makes the school year that much more complicated, and there has to be some way to simplify this for these school districts or relieve it for these school districts. So maybe they have the same funding from the year before as they have now, and they reset their count days maybe in the future instead of trying to continue that this year.
But it makes you wonder. There are two sides to this. Number one, it's like you wonder, I would imagine coming out of this, there are a lot of parents that now have a greater appreciation for being able to send their kids to school and into a classroom. And maybe we will see enrollment go up because of that. But on the other side, there maybe are some parents who are saying, we don't really need them. We can do an online hybrid. But there are some districts who are also looking at, hey, in the future, maybe we can do this hybrid and keep it going for what works best for families. So it's going to be interesting. I think we think there's going to be a switch to COVID. And just because we get a vaccine doesn't mean it's going away. So how is that going to impact us long term and the schools long term as well? That's going to be interesting to find out.
Yeah, it's going to continue to have an impact on these school districts, I think, more than anything. The virtual elements they've been dealing with during the pandemic out of just a need for survival and continuity of education are certainly going to continue, Ronnie. We are even talking earlier this week to Pat Watson, the superintendent of the Bloomfield Hills School District. They are planning on incorporating virtual learning into their future as well, providing opportunities for online courses or hybrid courses. Even after the pandemic is done, they're already exploring that, and I'm sure other school districts are doing the same.
So you'll find those stories and so much more over on civiccentertv.com. Also, we put direct links to some of the resources that you may want to check out. Make it easy for you. CDC resources, as well as the state of Michigan, Oakland County. I check their page each and every morning before coming in just to see if they have any new press releases that they're putting out. So just to make it easy for you, instead of Googling each individual page, we just put it right here. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. A lot of great guests, though, coming up for you today. We're going to be talking about the farmers market. You know that, one of my favorite places. And then we'll be checking in with the chief of police of West Bloomfield Township. Always good to hear from the chief over there. Kart2Kart. I'm excited to talk to them. Plus, I want to know, how are they keeping it up? They started that axe throwing thing, which I'm always like, who thought it was smart to go axe throwing and serving beer? I don't know about that. Then we'll check with the DNR about their parks division, and then we'll round out the shows talking sports. I'll leave this one to you, Tyler, although I have been watching my husband watch the draft, the Red Wings draft. So some surprises coming out of that.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll be back in just a few.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Tyler Keefe. And we're always excited to be in the studio to be able to show you and bring you the latest interviews with all things COVID-19 related as we continue to navigate this pandemic. And just like all of us and so many other businesses and entities throughout Oakland County and beyond, the Oakland County Farmers Market has also had to make a lot of changes during this time. Let's bring in Jeremy Brown. He is the market manager. He joins us on the Oakland County Megacast this morning. Good morning. Thank you for being with us, Jeremy. We appreciate your time.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So give us a little update. What's the latest going on over there at the market?
Okay, so with the COVID-19 pandemic that started in March, a lot of businesses shut down, but the farmers market is considered an essential business due to the food that we have there. So we remained open, but we had to make lots of changes. And I think at the last count we were at over 50 different operational changes to make it safe for the public to be there. Things including the social distancing marks on the ground, adding the hand sanitizing stations at every entrance, doing directional flow underneath the canopy out back as well as inside the building, spreading vendors out, trying to create that elbow room for people to move around and, create a better flow. So it's definitely been challenging, especially, I think I had heard you earlier, you're a big fan of the market, so, it can be very, very busy. So, it's been challenging, but I think overall everybody's been real receptive to the changes, been willing to, keep everybody safe. The mask wearing, inside is required. Outside, it's strongly encouraged, and we probably have over 95% compliance with that. And I do think people are trying to make their movements, they're giving wide berth to people, which is great. Unfortunately, due to our need to keep people safe, we have limited the amount of programming at the market. So, no food truck rallies, no food and wine nights, things like that. But we have been able to do some programming, like our yoga at the market. We were able to do that because it's on the lawn area. People can socially distance. But yeah, lots of changes. But the public's still coming. Our old mentality at the market was to get the old mentality was to get people in and get them out. When parks assumed management, we wanted to get people in and get them to stay, whether it was a special event, an educational program, things like that. But due to COVID, we kind of needed to take a step back and say, let's focus on our core operations of the farmers and the growers and the food vendors. So I hate to say it, but to some extent, we've gone back to let's get them in, get their products, and then get them out and make some room for the next guest.
I definitely noticed the change when the parks took over the operations, especially when you guys added like the band area so that you could have band and entertainment. It makes it more of an event rather than just going to, like you said, get your vegetables, get your flowers, and get out. And I think that's one of the things that attracted so many people to Eastern Market is because it was an event to go to Eastern Market. Now you didn't have to drive the 32 miles down to Detroit. You could drive the 6 miles to the Oakland County Farmers Market. But I will say when I went this year, you're noticing not just fewer vendors, but also it seems to be there's a lot fewer products available that the vendors are selling. And I'm guessing that had to do with the planting season. And you saw it more earlier in the season than now.
Well, we definitely had a handful of vendors that did not want to come back due to the pandemic, which I understand. And then also we limited it at the beginning. We didn't want the crafters. We wanted it just core essential products being, the food, the produce, and then the agricultural products being the plants and the flowers. So yeah, you probably didn't see as many vendors. What you probably noticed too is the space in between the vendors. We would leave a whole vendor stall empty between vendors. So it makes it look a little bit less empty, but we did that in order to create that elbow room, to create that social distancing space. But you're still going to be able to find, pretty much all the plants, all the flowers, all the produce that we've had in the past. You're probably going to see a few less of the handicrafters, just because, again, there was some concern, whether it's a health issue. We had some concerns with some vendors that didn't want to come back quite yet. But you're still going to find a large amount of items there and a good selection of vendors.
I keep forgetting to look on the ground, though, for the directions, and I always seem to be going against the flow. And every single time I go, which is pretty much every Saturday, I forget, and I end up at the one end to be able to go in. You come in through the one way, and I always have to walk back around. So it's just those little reminders, and it's happening in, the grocery stores are doing that as well as, the stores. But we forget to look down because your eye is so directed towards what's going on the eye level, and it's like eye candy out there, right? Like I want to see the plants, I want to see the flowers. I keep forgetting to look down on the ground. So going into fall time, I would imagine is a pretty big time for the market.
Absolutely. After the spring flower season, there's a lull, and then the produce really picks up. And it really picks up, now in October when all the fall decor, whether it's the corn stalks, the straw bales, all the different gourds and pumpkins. Back in the day, it used to just be orange pumpkins. That's what people had. And now they all the vendors or all the farmers carry what they call uglies. And these are the unique pumpkins that have the warts and the imperfections and just the craziness that are these new pumpkins that people are having. It definitely picks up. People love that fall decor. They love getting their pumpkins. So it's going to stay really, really busy right up until Halloween, and then we will have a slump, and then it'll pick back up right before Thanksgiving, and it'll stay pretty good through the holidays.
Jeremy Brown with us, market manager at the Oakland County Farmers Market today, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. West Bloomfield Parks, our Facebook partner today. We're broadcasting live on their Facebook page, facebook.com/WB Parks. Jeremy, with that in mind, as the colder months of the year are approaching, there's less of an opportunity necessarily for consistent outdoor business. We've seen that with other retail. We've seen that with restaurants in the local area. Are we going to see that also with the Oakland County Farmers Market, and how may that affect business as we get further into the fall and head toward the winter season?
Sure, we always see that seasonal drop-off in vendor participation. We always work to move the farmers inside because we consider they have a perishable product that has to be brought to market. So we'll move farmers inside so that their produce stays good. They just can't handle the 30-degree weather. And unfortunately, that means we need to move some of our handicrafters and other vendors to the outside, which is not ideal. Some of them can put up with the cold, but a lot can't. So you will see the decrease in the activity outside, but you're still going to see, once we get into the Christmas season, you see all the greens and the garland, the wreaths and all those good things. Those will really be prevalent outside, but you will definitely see a drop off in some of the handicrafters, maybe some of the bakers. Again, we have a finite amount of space inside that building, and we have nearly 100 years of history at that market, and farmers and growers take priority. It's difficult as a market manager when you have to tell somebody you only have outside space. But unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast at the market. But, we try to accommodate everybody inside. And hopefully some of them can put up with some of the cold outside. So, yeah, you definitely see that tail off. But you also see the drop in guest visits as well. So, like this last Saturday, we had about 3,500 people show up. And that's going to drop off tremendously. So it's a balance. You have less customers, but you have less vendors. But it really balances itself out for the vendors that are able to participate.
Getting back to addressing the fall season, I know in the past you've done a lot of things to try to bring people in. Have you done away with those extra special events this year?
Yes, unfortunately, like we would have done our corn roast. That unfortunately, because of the need for people handling food, eating on site, we needed to cancel that. We would normally do like a fall festival. Again, we're trying to limit I hate to say it, but limit the amount of people that come to the market and just focusing on our core operations. What you will see is more online programming. We've done some cooking demos with Michigan State University Extension health and nutrition educator. Doing like a squash demonstration and some others. You're going to find that online at our Facebook page. And then we are still working for the winter time. We have an excellent cooking demo program with Edible Wow Magazine. And we are planning to do that. We're just going to have to work out some of the logistics on that. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the programming has gone away for right now. I mean, it's not forever. It will be back. People love all that stuff. It's, I always say the farmers and the growers are the foundation of the market, but all these extra special events and educational programming, that's added value stuff. And that brings people in, which helps our vendor sales. Because again, the farmers and growers are the foundation. And right now we're focused on them and their sales. But unfortunately, the large events and educational programming have to be put on hold for a little bit.
But I love the thought of trying to do a cooking demo, because when I go to the market, I'm not very savvy in the kitchen. Occasionally I'll go on Pinterest and be like, oh, let me try this. But when I get to the farmer's market, sometimes I get overwhelmed with trying to buy things that are in season, but I don't know really how to cook them. So I think if you can partner up and do a cooking demo, but let the vendors know, hey, you want to buy this because we're going to be doing a cooking demo. So then you buy it, and then on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, you say, hey, break out that squash. And I know a lot of people make like spaghetti squash or whatever. For me, I throw it on my front porch and the squirrels end up eating it. So that is just a regular person. I love the thought of that.
Yeah, and our vendors will tell you that when we hold one of those cooking demos, whether it's with Edible Wow or Michigan State University Extension, their sales increase because they've sampled this dish and they're like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. And you're correct. A lot of times people don't know how to prepare that egg corn squash or that spaghetti squash. And we all need tips. Sometimes the kitchen, our cooking skills can get a little stale and we need a little bit of variety. And we definitely help people do that. and we do always try to incorporate what the vendors have in season. And if I can talk briefly, products that are in season, we have a vendor, Penzine's Produce. He's got a lot of root vegetables and the squashes and stuff. He keeps those in cold storage, and he's able to provide those, the carrots, the potatoes, and things like that all winter long. He keeps them in cold storage, packed in dirt, and before he brings them to market, he washes them, and they're great. They stay really good. Also, like Brookwood Fruit Farm, one of our vendors, whose family you can trace back to the 1600s in Europe, coming over to the United States, and they've always been in apples and cherries and peaches. He too keeps apples in cold storage, and he's able to bring them to the market all the way until about the first to second week of March. We always like to try and use the produce that the vendors have available for these cooking demos and to show the guests.
I love that history that you just shared with us. That's great to know. What is it like for someone who is the market manager to try to get vendors to come here? Is there a competition amongst the other farmers markets, not just in Oakland County, but beyond?
Well, I'm very fortunate with being the manager at the Oakland County Farmers Market with nearly 100 years of history. It was founded in 1922 in Pontiac, and it moved to its current location in Waterford in 1953. So with that longevity, I have vendors that have been coming literally since the 40s and 50s, so I have a really good base. And then just because of how popular we are, to toot our own horn, vendors seek us out. So really, I've had to do very little recruiting of vendors, and especially this time of the year too, seeing as we're a year-round market and not all markets are year-round. Right now, literally in the last week, I've had 7 different vendors contact me to participate at the market. Of course, they want inside space because the weather's getting colder. But I just tell them, unfortunately, I don't have that, but you are welcome to set up outside. So again, very fortunate with the history and the popularity of my market to where people really seek us out to participate. Could always use more vendors on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Of course, everybody wants a Saturday, but you're still going to find a real good variety of things on Tuesdays and Thursdays as well.
In fact, I was just going to ask you about the other days. I know in the beginning of the pandemic, I believed, if I remember correctly, you added Sundays to try to break up that crowd. I don't think that's still happening, but with so many more people working virtually, has the other days at the market picked up, or is it just a matter of people knowing it's there?
Well, I think there's definitely that awareness. That's one of our biggest obstacles, creating awareness. It's funny, when Parks took over, we were doing all these special events, and somebody would come for, a fall festival and say, hey, this place is great. How long has it been here? And I'm like, since 1953. So awareness is always a difficult thing. I think business has picked up on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's been a little while since I checked our car counters, but people are seeking out alternatives to the larger grocery stores. And when you shop at a farmer's market, you're dealing directly with the producer, so there's less steps in that product coming to market. So that's important. But we are Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 1:30. I really try and get you to come on a Tuesday or Thursday, because Saturdays can be really busy, and we're concerned about social distancing. So if you have to come on a Saturday, I would come before 8:30 a.m. or after 11:30 a.m. Because that middle part is when we're at our busiest. We did do the Sundays for a while, and that was to help with the pandemic, the need for food, the need to lessen that crowd on Saturday. We got to a certain point that the traffic just was not there to justify being open on that Sunday. Things had kind of, leveled out. But actually, we are talking about next spring, because it's our busiest time of year. We can see up to 5,000 people on a Saturday. We are talking about running Sundays, May 9th, which is Mother's Day, through probably the first or second weekend of June, just to take that crush off of Saturdays.
Jeremy Brown with us. He's the market manager at the Oakland County Farmers Market with us today on the Megacast. Jeremy, the next several business days, on Friday and Wednesday next week, a couple of exciting events and opportunities coming up at the Farmers Market. Care to talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. So tomorrow, Friday, October 9th, we have a document shredding event. We started those a couple years ago with one, and now we've grown to 3. That will run from 9 to 11. You are asked to limit it to 3 to 4 boxes of your personal documents. You will come. It'll be really a no-contact experience. So you're going to come and line up. We will have volunteers and park staff, and that's actually in cooperation with the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, and we have Vibe Credit Union as our sponsor. So we will have 2 shredding trucks there. You pull up, pop your trunk, or we'll open the door. We'll take your boxes. We put them in like a garbage container. It gets wheeled over to these big shredder trucks, it lifts it up, drops it in, and shreds it immediately. So there's no concern about your sensitive documents being, put out there and left for a while. But that runs from 9 to 11. I would recommend you get there a little bit early. The line will get long right before it starts, but immediately at 9 o'clock, that line, boom, we start moving, and that line will dissipate rather quickly. So that will be our last one of the year, and then I would look for next year for more. And then since the pandemic started, on another program we're doing, we're a food pickup location for gleaners, and we're doing that cooperation with the Oakland County Health Division. And again, that will be from 9 to 11, October 14th and October 28th, and then we have 2 more dates for November and December. Actually, 4 more dates. Again, the line will get long, but they move through it pretty rapidly. But when the pandemic started, the Oakland County Health Division reached out to us and asked if they could use our location for this food pickup. And it's been wonderful. It's been a great resource for the community. At one point, I think our height, we did over 500 vehicles. So 500 families were able to come and get food. And it's a variety of things. It could be canned goods, fresh produce, it could be milk. Generally, they say about 30 pounds of food. And it is open to everybody. There's no income guidelines. If there is a need for food in your home, please come out and participate. Just keep in mind there is a limited amount. I believe they've been budgeting for 300 families recently. So we may get to a point where it is cut off. There are deputies there, and they will help with that traffic flow and cutting people off. Now, I hope that doesn't sound bad, but there is its supply. But those, again, 2 great things for the community. So even though we've limited a lot of the other program at the market, we're still doing things. We're still trying to be of value in the community.
You are definitely a great value to the community. We thank you to you and your entire team over there at the Oakland County Farmers Market for sticking with us during the pandemic and being able to provide us a much needed resource. Thank you so much for your time this morning as well, and good luck on your upcoming events. And I'll be out there Saturday, so we'll see you then.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you can always go to oaklandcountyparks.com for more information. And we do encourage you to vote for our...
We have to apologize for that, Jeremy. We, as a product of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission, we cannot broadcast any calls to action regarding any items on the upcoming ballot. So sorry to cut you off on that. No, we do appreciate having you on. Thank you for being with us today. Ronnie and I are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be speaking with the Chief of Police of West Bloomfield Township, Michael Patton. You are watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio outlets.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on, to help stop the spread of COVID-19, wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for tuning in to the Tuesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Always great to have everyone with us as we continue to check in with area business leaders and newsmakers throughout the greater West Bloomfield area. And just to let people know, with Jeremy Brown, the reason why we do what we do is that this is public access, and we know there is an upcoming election, and out of the abundance of caution, we're not here to promote one candidate or one issue above the other. So we tried to keep the conversation based on the issues that are at hand right now.
And even on top of that, there may be a question following up with that for some of you that do tune in on a daily basis about, well, if that's the case, and why do you have candidates on your show as guests that are currently running for office? And with that, we will talk to them about issues that they're currently working on that do affect Oakland County and do affect our coverage area. However, we will not touch on their candidacy. We will not touch on calls to action for, you should remember to vote for me on November 3rd, or talk to them about their efficacy as a potential candidate versus their opponent. It's always going to be about the specific issues that affect, or specific projects affecting Oakland County. We are staying strong neutrally for either candidate on any part of the ticket or any proposal, as well as that is, of course, our duty here as a neutral body with the Cable Communications Commission.
Yep, we're just here to try to inform you with the latest information and the latest updates going on throughout West Bloomfield and the greater West Bloomfield area. And our next guest definitely knows what's going on in the West Bloomfield Township area. He is the Chief of Police, Michael Patton. Thank you, Chief Patton, again, for always being with us and taking time out of your schedule to be with us on the Megacast. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Ronnie. I hope you and Tyler are doing well also.
We are, and I have to say happy fall to you. Are you and your family getting ready for the upcoming change of the seasons?
We already are. You know, you look out the windows here at the Civic Center site, we have a remarkable number of trees here, and they're already starting to change. You can already see that beauty here in the West Bloomfield area, and it is a remarkable time.
It is always nice to have a window in your office to be able to see outside. So what else is going on here in the greater West Bloomfield area? Any new updates that we should let the public know about?
Well, before I start talking about anything we have going on in the police department, I want to talk about you folks at Civic Center TV and Radio, 89.3 Lakes FM. I've been here for a while, as you know, 35 years in the police department, 10 years as chief. But back in 1999, I was a sergeant, and we were dealing with the Y2K issues. And for anyone that doesn't remember Y2K, the whole world was going to stop rotating because of the transition and computers and everything from 1999 to 2000. And there were a lot of governmental plans and preparations at the time. And one of the things that we considered was taking advantage of the radio system that was at the high school. And could we use that for emergency broadcasting, and if necessary? And at the time, it wasn't really feasible. There was limited broadcasting range. It didn't have a standby power source, and a number of other variables. So it didn't get moved out that time. Now jump ahead to 2003, we had the large blackout here in August of 2003. We had 50 million people in the United States without power. It was really a concerning time because it was several hours before we even knew whether or not it was another terrorist attack in the United States. And as a result of the preparations and things we needed to do better here in the community, we furthered the discussions about developing the radio system. Obviously, we've always had Civic Center TV as a component here in the community for many years. But the addition of the radio component has really been developed here. And here we are now in the midst of another national crisis. And we look at how well you have done here at Civic Center TV and Radio and doing these megacasts. You have broadened the discussion to not only our elected officials at the state and county and local levels, but you bring in other interesting partners, just like Mr. Brown from the farmers market, and all that informational stuff. You spread it to other communities. So well done, Civic Center TV and Radio. You have really done well and excelled, particularly during this time of crisis in the United States.
That is really huge kudos to the cable commissioners as well as the entire team here at CivicCenterTV.com. I just jumped in on this program a little bit later. I was a cable commissioner, but kind of bailed out on them when I went to Cleveland for a short time. But I will say I'm with you because I lived through both of those incidents that you spoke of. And remember, too, I've also worked down south where you rely on your TV, but at some point in time, you lose all of that technology. And what do you have left? You have the radio, and you don't realize it until you lose all other avenues of communication, how important a radio really is.
Right. Well, one of the things we always encourage people to do is to have a radio in their home. Even if it's just a battery-powered radio, no batteries will run out. But really, the affordability of like little hand crank radios you can get, good quality radios that you can almost hand crank and listen to for forever, is really something that every household should have, just in case there's an emergency.
My sister just bought us one. She got one for me and my brother as well. And you crank it, and it will work just fine. It's actually, like you said, Chief, everyone should have one of those in their home at all time, because in the middle of an emergency is not when you wish you had it. It's when you're happy that you had it, even if it's the first time you've used it and it's 10 years old.
Right, exactly. Right. So on to what's going on at the police department right now. Look, you usually are used to seeing our great, fantastic Deputy Chief Kurt Lawson, who handles most of our public information things. And I know, Ronnie, you've had a great experience, and now in the news media, but also public information, working for government agencies. You know how mission critical that was. I heard some earlier comments you made about things going on at the state level government. They should have been prepared. They should have been able to have statements. They should have done all that stuff. So it's always a constant work in process, trying to anticipate what to do next, what to say next, and how to communicate with the community. And of course, our Deputy Chief Kurt Lawson does really a fantastic job of that. He's developed a team of communicators here to help us on our social media and appearing on the Megacast, and there's everything. So not everything in the world involves the police department, which is a good thing. But so many things do funnel through here, and we are a critical part of the community. And it's very important that we have very excellent communication forums, and Civic Center TV and radio is just one of those. What's going on at the police department right now? We're hiring. And it's always important to welcome new people into the law enforcement profession. Look, I've been here for 35 years. When I started here, there were people working here from the 1950s and 1960s. You think about the generational nature of law enforcement. I hate to say this out loud sometimes, but I've been working here in the police department longer than maybe half the staff in the building have been alive. And again, you think about how things change. You bring people on, and they bring new experiences and different outlooks, and we bring them into our law enforcement profession family, and it's very important. But it's really a rich, diverse community of thought and opinion and expertise, and so it's really an important process to bring people in. So we're hiring 2 people right now, and anticipate another 2 people probably after the beginning of the year that we're hiring. So I think the hiring window is open till the end of October, and I would encourage people to look at the township website for job openings, or contact our HR department if they have any questions about that.
So, and Chief, as you mentioned, I worked for ATF before, and I was in charge of their recruiting. Hats off to all of you, because recruiting in law enforcement is so difficult. Right now, it was a little bit easier on the federal side as far as getting applicants, but trying to get people through the process is not an easy process. Can you explain to us a little bit about, if someone is interested in law enforcement, what are they up against, and are there age requirements as well? I think every community, every police department probably has a slightly different hiring process or requirements. Here we require a 2-year degree to apply. So any kind of associate degree or better, that's one minimum requirement. Our outside candidates also have to have already attended a Mission Commission of Law Enforcement Standards Academy and be licensed as a police officer in the state. When you look at the police academies nowadays, let's say an average class is about 50 people, probably, and this could vary a little bit, but about half the class is what we call pre-service people that have not been employed yet by a police department, and they're putting themselves through the police academy, which is really a commitment. It's about $5,000 or $6,000 to attend the academy. It's about 16 weeks out of your life. And if you're working full-time, if you're a single parent, or if you have children to take care of, or other responsibilities in your life, that's really a commitment to put yourself through the police academy. And then you come out, and we would interview you. It's a very elaborate interview and background process. We're very fortunate here in West Bloomfield that we can be very picky and choosy about who we bring onto the team here.
And then they go through, months of field training and evaluation, and only then and only then are they really, really fully integrated into the police department. So it's really an elaborate process. It's a necessary process, I think, as everyone appreciates. And we're very happy to bring new people in. It's always very exciting to do that.
Chief, does it make it a little bit harder for you to try to hire, especially when I believe MSP, as well as I know the city of Detroit, they pay for that academy. So does it make it harder for you to compete with some of these larger agencies and to get a diverse background as well?
We are always looking to diversify the police department. So we go out and target different communities to try and encourage them. Just yesterday, I met with our community partners and I did an interview on Middle Eastern American TV and radio. And I'm sure you're familiar with them. And we interviewed them because they're also a large segment of our community. We enjoy a very diverse community here in West Bloomfield. We are recognized in the state as one of the handful of communities that is a welcoming community. We encourage people from every place and everywhere to come here to live and to prosper, raise their families, work, and go to school. And it's a great environment. Well, we want representation in our police department. So it enhances the gene pool here. It makes us more robust, more nimble, more able to respond to the members of our community that we serve and protect. So that's a challenge. But to your point about are we facing increasing difficulties right now, the honest answer to that is yes, Ronnie. Because you look at the dialogue that's going on, and it's a necessary dialogue to a great extent. That does affect people's willingness to come into this profession. One of the questions when I meet with our new applicants, and they spend hours, unfortunately sometimes, with the chief of police, and I ask them a lot of pointed questions. And one of the questions is are your family or friends trying to talk you out of becoming a police officer? And hopefully the answer is no, but sometimes the answer is a little bit yes, because their families or their friends are concerned that don't go into that line of work, look at all the problems they're having, the stigmas involved. And all I can tell you in my years of service, and I know here, particularly at the West Bloomfield Police Department, it is a very noble profession. It is a very worthwhile profession to go into. But for right now, because of the ongoing dialogues in the United States, it affects our ability to recruit and retain people.
Well, and on top of that, I could imagine recruiting is a little bit different in this virtual world because you're not going to the college campuses or to the community events like you would before and handing out your knickknacks and having that face-to-face time with potential candidates. How is it looking in a virtual world right now?
Well, again, that adds another dimension of difficulty to try and go out and recruit people to come here. It's a competitive labor market right now. Now, look, we offer above average wages, good benefits. We still have our traditional pension plan here for applicants. So we are very competitive in the market. But there are a lot of different variables about why people want to come here versus other agencies. Some people think they're very loyal to the communities they grow up in, or East Side or West Side communities. So we draw from people from all over the state and out of state. We have officers that we've hired here that were LAPD officers or worked down at an agency down in Texas. So we like to think of ourselves as what I call a destination department. Most officers, not all, but most officers that come here, they'll stay a career here because of the wages and the benefits, the working environment. You can have a meaningful police career here in West Bloomfield, where you have strong support for the community. And we do good training, and we have good leadership, and we have good equipment. And it's really a healthy environment to be a police officer. And we're very fortunate in that regard, too.
Chief Michael Patton with us from the West Bloomfield Township Police Department, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Their neighbors over at the Civic Center Plaza, West Bloomfield Parks, our Facebook partner on today's edition of the program. And Chief, with the news last Friday of the Michigan Supreme Court striking down the governor's executive powers under the Executive Powers of the Governor Act of 1945 and enacting and encouraging enforcement of executive orders regarding to the coronavirus response, what is your police department preparing for or discussing at the county level and at the state level in terms of continuing the response to COVID-19, albeit with different regulations that may be coming into place immediately and into the near and distant future, with the governor's orders now mostly being out of play?
Well, it adds additional, complexity to what we're trying to do. I think everyone's hopefully committed to doing all the right things. We realize we're in the middle still of, in progress of this global pandemic, and there's still risks out there. So we're not going to be ignorant of those things. Whether or not the right things that people should be doing on an individual level or in their workplaces need to be done at the force of law as a matter of, if they don't do it, there's a violation, a criminal penalty or a civil penalty. That's always a healthy discussion to have. We try to be here at the police department when we get complaints, and we get periodic complaints about non-compliance at individuals once in a while or at a physical location like a storefront or a business. We try to be educational about it. So to date, we've never issued any citations or had to bring in the prosecutor's office to obtain any warrants. But with the change that happened, as soon as that Michigan Supreme Court came down, and again, the basic apparent elimination of most of the governor's executive orders, again, there was a bit of a lag there. Well, I don't think people stopped wearing their masks because they realized, even if they got rid of the seatbelt law tomorrow for some technical reason, people wouldn't sit back and say, well, I'm going to stop wearing my seatbelt because I don't believe in seatbelts. There may be a few that do that, but most people realize that they should still be doing the right things. Right away, Oakland County Health Division issued an order here that would have blanketed Oakland County regarding masks in the county. But that was like on October 3rd. But as soon as the state issued their order through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, then Oakland County actually rescinded their order. I believe, I can't speak for the county on this, but I believe their belief was now that the state has done it globally for the state, we don't need to just do it here for Oakland County. And the current order from the state really has 6-month penalties and $200 fines for violations of the masking and other provisions in that in that emergency order. And then there's also potential for a $1,000 fine, civil fine.
Chief Patton with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. And of course, as the weather starts to turn a little bit chillier, although we are enjoying beautiful weather this week, and we appreciate that, Mother Nature, but we do know it is going to be getting colder a little bit quicker. And of course, when that happens, there's typically an increase of stolen vehicles. Do you want to go ahead and throw out the yearly warning to the people who are warming up their cars out in the morning hours? Hey, don't do it. Your car can get stolen.
Well, we don't have a significant history of that. Look, any kind of risk management or way that you can lower your exposure to being a victim of a crime is a good thing. So that seems like this common sense. If you're going to have a habit or there's a need to warm up your car and maybe not immediately attend to it so that you can maintain some physical control over the operation of it, then maybe look at investing in one of these devices that it starts it, warms it up, but it can't really, if you try and put it in gear, it's not going to do. That's a minimal investment to protect a vehicle and not have to draw on law enforcement or something like that. But honestly, Ryan, we don't have a tremendous history of that. But I would not, because of that, I don't want people think like, it can never happen to me, because that's the issue with any kind of crime, and particularly in West Bloomfield. People have lived here for so long, and they've never had any issues but no community is crime free. Yes, we have very low crime, very low violent crime. Majority of the crime we have are property issues or frauds of those kind of natures. But don't think for a minute that there isn't somebody that may take advantage of you, that if you leave something unattended, whether it be a bicycle in your yard, leave your garage door open, or your car running, that you're going to come out 5 minutes later and it might not just be there.
Crimes of opportunity. We all get so relaxed. We saw the video from the gas station in Sylvan Lake, I think a few weeks ago, where the guy left his car running, and just like that, they jumped in and they stole it. So don't be a victim. Be smart about it, even if you're so comfortable in your own neighborhood. Chief, before we let you go, anything that you want to get out to the viewers and the listeners today?
Saturday, October 24th, during the daytime there, we'll be participating in the twice a year DEA Drug Take Back Day. It's another effort to come in and drop off your unused medications here at the police station. Of course, I think you're always aware that we have the Operation Medicine Cabinet, really 24/7 here, 365 here in West Bloomfield. We'll take your medications in. The only thing we ask people to do is not to bring in liquids or anything that's associated with sharps or needles, because we're not able to take those in. We'll also be supporting the Parks and Rec, their Halloween event here on Sunday, October 25th from 1 to 5 over in their parking lot. And I encourage people to look at the Parks and Rec website to sign up for that, hopefully very well attended event. And of course, we're also looking at any issues related to election safety that are coming up here. And so that we'll be doing all those kind of coordinations with the, and even though we're not anticipating any problems, we'll be coordinating our efforts a little bit with the Township Clerk's Office.
Chief Michael Patton with us. He is the Chief of Police over at the West Bloomfield Township. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. Chief, we want to say thank you for your time and thank you to your entire team for all that you do to support us and to support the community. We appreciate it, not just preventing crime, but also your commitment to the community. I know you guys are involved in so many other efforts of the community and reaching out to them as well. So thank you to you and your team.
Thank you, Ronnie and Tyler. Thank you for what you do too. It's our pleasure to be of service to this community.
We'll take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. We have a lot to get to in the next hour. We'll be talking go-karts as well as we'll be heading outside to visit with the DNR. And then we'll be talking sports. The Red Wings draft. A lot of surprises there for you, Tyler. This is 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/contain-COVID. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
A lot to get to this second hour of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studio alongside Tyler Keefe. CivicCenterTV.com as well as 89.3 Lakes FM. We're located here in the greater West Bloomfield area. We always appreciate everyone tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. You can catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, as we work to bring you interesting interviews from people throughout the greater area as we all continue to change and pivot, as they like to say, Tyler, with how we are operating and how we are living. But life does not stop because of the pandemic, and neither does the fun. Let's go ahead and bring in Tony Eckrich. He's the owner of Kart2Kart in Sterling Heights. How are you doing today?
Doing quite well, Ronnie. How are you?
I thought for sure I'd see you out on a go-kart or something.
Actually, I got some work going on with my car, so I'm at home today. But the track will be open at 4 o'clock, 4 to 10, Monday through Thursday.
Okay, for those not familiar with Kart2Kart, bring us up to speed.
We're an indoor go-kart facility. Building's about 54,000 square feet. The track actually is a fifth of a mile, and we can put up to 12 drivers on the track. And everything's fully timed and scored, so at the end of a 5-minute race session, which is about 10 to 12 laps, all the drivers get to see their race lap times and can compare and contrast the, kind of the brag rights of who is fast and who is not so fast. But we also offer full service bar, catering. We have a large social room that actually used to do more corporate business. Now we've actually turned that into more social opportunities with cornhole and a large screen TV and more distancing going on as well. But been Actually, we've completed 2 million miles in over 20 years inside one building on Van Dyke, just south of 19 in Sterling Heights.
That's a lot of miles. How have you had to change how you operate during the pandemic?
Obviously, with the distancing and that type of space demand, we're fortunate enough that, again, the building's kind of large. The track takes up about 70%, about 42,000 square feet, leaving about 18,000 square feet left. So distancing's not a real problem. PPE was the program in the beginning when we opened up. Customers as well wearing face masks, things like that. Some of the other things we've invested in is a UVC light box, kind of like when you go to the barber shop, or us guys go to the barber shop. There's some combs that the barber keeps under a blue light, right? I don't know if the girls have that at the salon, but the UVC light actually kills the germs. So we invested about $4,000 or $5,000 in a refrigerator-sized box that you can place up to a dozen helmets in there. You can even put your purse in there, other things that you wear, and turn it on in about 8 minutes. It somehow just sends the light killing things going on and helps the germs go away. So that's one big investment that we did take upon ourselves to implement. And after each person drives the cart, we're cleaning out the steering wheels, touch points, things like the steering wheel seat belt. The carts do have adjustable pedals and seats, but we actually maintain the control of that just to limit the amount of cleaning that's necessary. But we also mandate everybody to wear a helmet. So we are cleaning these helmets. We also advocate anybody to bring their own. And in Michigan, there's a lot of people that have motorsports toys, so people do have their own helmets as well. But when people come in, we'll issue them a helmet. They keep that helmet for their experience at Kart2Kart, whether that be 1, 2, or 3 races, and then they give that helmet back to us. And then at that point, we entered into the cleaning process. So that's kind of the main things that we're doing. Also some limitations on group size, trying to come in and make reservations. We used to be doing about 10 to 20 person groups, but keeping them separate if they sit down, just like in the restaurants.
So with the state reopening, have you found that business is picked up because people are so desperate to try to be entertained right now? I mean, how much Netflix can we really watch, right?
Amen to that. Summertime comes, Michigan, people are outdoors, highly recreational state. But the business has just been kind of overwhelming, actually, when we got back open, a month ago, getting things tuned up. Phones ringing a lot more. We got the website that helps guide people, but there's still a lot of questions as to, hey, are you open? How does it work? There's a lot of new customers calling also that we haven't ever seen before. They have more questions, but online booking is actually coming online next week. We've just had a meeting yesterday with our web guy, and there's about a 3-4 step process to get the online booking actually up and available, and then functioning between online and the front desk. So those are some training things that we're working on this weekend, but controlling the flow of people in and out of the building will be a little easier with online, because then we know actually who's coming. In my business, we've been more like a movie theater. Sometimes if there's no scheduled events for the day, you really don't know how many people will actually be in the building until you get there, just like a movie theater, right? So just some of those changes that the demand is up. There's less things to do, I think, concerts, festivals, barbecues, school functions, sports functions, all the things that we normally do with our family and friends are curtailed such that there are a lot of people just seeking outlet, and we're seeing a lot of families come out. Sometimes they do make a reservation, but a car full of people pulling in, typically it's, not just 2 people, it's probably 4 to 6 to 8. And we do take reservations for 6 or more drivers, and the online booking will take care of 5 or less drivers coming in.
Tony, over the course of the pandemic, people have been here and there out and about to find some new activity, something fun to do with their friends or even with their family. But so they're driving place to place, and maybe they're going and they're going to be driving in the go-karts at Kart2Kart, but maybe they're frustrated with all this COVID-19 stuff that's been going on for 7 months, and it really makes them want to pick up an axe and throw it at a wall. That's now available as well at Kart2Kart, isn't it?
that up. I've been doing this for 20 years, and we've been focused on the go-karts. The axe throwing, thanks for bringing that up, just started about a year and a half ago. So we're seeing a lot of, actually kind of popular with the women, interestingly. A lot of women are calling for the axe throwing, but that's something that can be done together in a combo package. You can come in and buy a go-kart race and an hour of axe throwing. If you do buy any go-karting, then you get a discount on the axe throwing. But if you come in, we can offer $19 per person per hour for axe throwing, 14 years old and up. And then if you do buy a go-kart race of any sort, basically that axe rate drops down to $13 per person. And we've got an axe coach that'll give you some tips on technique, how to throw, how to score. We are investing in a kind of a online, it's a cloud-based axe target system. We'll have a projector that actually shoots 7 different images on the wood target, and instead of just focusing on the rings of a target like the target store at the bullseye in the middle, this one actually has some different opportunities for different scoring, and has a little gamification, if you will, with the projected image. It doesn't automatically score for you, but it does allow some different activities on the axe lane. We can put up to 6 people on an axe lane, and our private axe room has 4 axe lanes and would accommodate up to 24, 25 people in a private setting, which is kind of unique. So you don't have to rub elbows with other people in the game area if you do have a group size of anywhere from 18 to 24. So a lot of unique opportunities for axe playing. That's actually one of the highest things sought after on our website at the moment.
I will say, when this first came out, obviously, Kart2Kart was not the first one to bring this to Metro Detroit. When it first came out, I was like, what are they thinking? Putting an axe in the hands of people who have been drinking alcohol, number one. But number two, I'm dangerous with a bowling ball because I'm going to bowl and it slipped out of my hands backwards. So I'm afraid that when I go to throw the axe, that it goes. And I will say my girlfriends have done this, and I'm like, no, I'll skip that part and I'll just, stick with the other part of it. So I would say maybe you guys need to put on that projector a big thing of COVID. You know how COVID was the image of the bumpy ball type thing? That, I think, is what people want to right now really try to destroy.
The projector allows for other things too. I've heard stories of where we're buying the system, people bring in their pictures of their ex-boyfriend and put it up on the target, things like that. But one of our employees did build a COVID target board, which did look like kind of a cross between Fred Flintstone's shirt and some tie-dye looking circles for different score points. And it was probably 4 by 8, maybe 3 foot by 6 foot that he had some throwing knives. He was using throwing knives at home during COVID. But to answer your question, the axe it's a hatchet, a little smaller, something you're gonna, split kindling wood out back at Grandpa's house or maybe your own house. But it's 24 ounces, it's 1.5 pounds, 22 ounces. It's kind of like a heavy hammer. And technique, honestly, you're trying to throw it with one revolution and stick the metal head into the wood. So it does take, a little bit of coordination if you've ever thrown darts. Bowling balls, it's an accuracy thing. Bocce ball, similar. It's technique, it's motion, it's letting go of the instrument. So hopefully you're going to, in bocce ball, you're trying to get it down the lane. Bowling, you're trying to get it in the pocket of the 1 and the 3 pin to get the strike. So with axe throwing, we've got a scoring game that runs up to 51 points, and then our new projector system will have about a half a different scoring games that people can play with a little bit more automation and some pizzazz because the TV screen shows a score. And America has a big demand for entertainment. We have Disney World, we have Disneyland, we've got in the Midwest, we've got Cedar Point, Kings Island, both big coaster parks. But America does have a lot of entertainment at their disposal, and through COVID, we've been able to eke out what we needed to do. Redid some interior finishes. We changed our pit area to make that a little safer. What do we do? We are adding a new front desk check-in to split our go-karting and axe customers check-in procedure, separate from the food and the beverage counter, just to distribute, basically keep labor focused on what they need to do at a better task. And the new front desk will help streamline some of that check-in process. But we can actually run something else over COVID that we had changed the length of the go-kart races. It used to be 8 minutes. It was about 15 to 17 laps, depending on how aggressive of a driver you may be. But something I learned out in Denver in March, right before COVID shut us all down, the Denver facility was doing 5-minute races on the evenings and weekends because of the demand at that time of day. So we started doing 5-minute races. We can execute more people through the system. It also decreases the wait time in the cafe area that overlooks the pits and the racetrack. So we can kind of get people in and out of the system a little quicker, a little more efficiently. And the 5-minute race concept, actually, after we looked at it from a cost standpoint, we were able to lower the price. You don't get as much time on the track, but it's a lower price point that you can get out on the track more times per visit. And we've seen a lot of improvements of efficiency on our side, but it also has just increased the throughput, which keeps people happy because they're not waiting as long, right?
We all try to learn new things during this crisis. What's one of the positives that you think Kart2Kart has learned that will maybe stick around post-pandemic?
There's one more pricing model that we're about to institute that some of my business associates in Kentucky and Ohio are succeeding with, and that's going with a wristband model price point. $50 for 3 hours, unlimited karting and axe throwing for 3 hours during the week, and then $50 for 2 hours on the weekends for unlimited axe throwing and go-karting. So that's something that the trampoline park entertainment business has been doing for years. They basically sell the experience by time. Okay, so there's a different shift throughout the day. You might have the first shift, second shift, and in between each one of those 3-hour shifts is a 30 to 45-minute window to clean, prepare the facility for the next shift of customers. And the success they're having with the wristband, the time period model, they call it the Adrenaline Pass at my buddy's place called Full Throttle in Cincinnati. The Adrenaline Pass is a 3-hour experience, and you get a lot of value. You come in, you can take a little bit more time to get your races through. And besides online booking starting next week, we do take reservations for 6 or more, but the Adrenaline Pass type concept of a wristband for 3 hours of time is the next edition of our price model that we're bringing to the table. And in the meeting room, we've got cornhole set up, big screen TV. People are coming out lingering a little bit longer because they frankly want to get out of the house, right? So some of the things that we're excited to try would be the final step would be the wristband price model. The online bookings we're on the cusp of that. The shorter races, smaller price point. The demand has actually increased from our walk-in customers. We're seeing a lot more walk-in type clientele, which are buying the combination pass, the couple of go-kart races and an hour of axe throwing so they can get out of the house and have some fun with their family or friends, whoever they may have come with.
Yeah, I think the axe throwing is a good way to release some stress for so many of these parents that are having to homeschool right now. Hey, Tony, quickly before we let you go, when were you guys able to reopen?
About a month and a half ago.
And for those that want to go out and experience Kart2Kart and some of the other events that you have there, how can they find your organization and Kart2Kart? Do you have an online site?
Yeah, our website is the same as our name. We spell it with a K, K-A-R-T, numeral, Kart.com. So it looks like Kart2Kart.com. In the beginning, when I got the business open, I wanted the name to connotate what we do. So integrated the word cart in there twice, I guess.
That's awesome.
But online presence. If you look up go-karts near me, we're in Sterling Heights on Van Dyke, first driveway south of 19 Mile.
Such a fun thing to do, and like you said, it's a great way to get out of the house and make it a family time as well. Laugh a little, relieve some stress, and enjoy yourself as a family. Kart2Kart in Sterling Heights. Tony Eckrich, we appreciate your time this morning, and we wish you continued luck as this pandemic wears on.
Thank you very much. And Stephanie is happy to take any reservations if anybody's listening or watching on TV. Her extension's 103 for group sales of six drivers or more. And then again, if you have 5 or less, you can pretty much just walk in. Saturdays are always busier, 6 to 10 p.m., just like everything's going on with these restaurants out there. So coming out, have some fun, bring your friends. If you got a little bit reasonable size of a group, please call ahead and we can handle that more appropriately.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that information. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe, and this is Civic Center TV.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonay Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
This is the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Tyler Keefe. Again, you can always catch us Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. Catch us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And then today you can also catch us on the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield Parks Department. They are streaming us live, and we want to say thank you to them. But we have so many great parks, not just on a local level, not just on a county level, but also on a state level. Always good to have our next guest on with us, Ron Olson. He is the Chief of Parks and Recreation Division with the Michigan DNR, Department of Natural Resources. Ron, always good to have you on. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for the opportunity.
I think the last time we spoke with you, we were moving into the summer months. Now, just like that, summer is over and fall is here. How do things change at the DNR with the change of the seasons?
Well, typically, obviously the activities that people choose to do migrate and change. Of course, a lot depends on the weather, which has been, for example, this week has been very good, and a lot of folks are out walking and running and biking and kayaking and lots of things that they do. We have continued to experience high usage at the parks even during the week due to the COVID situation, and some people are able to navigate with their kids that are doing remote learning, and sometimes they'll go to places outdoors and conduct that sort of thing. But there's still a lot of opportunities. Many of our campgrounds are full every weekend throughout this past month of September and sailing into October, mostly, particularly in the Upper Peninsula. For example, we've had a lot of people, I would call chasing the colors of the leaves changing, and right now it's peaking up there, and it's as you get further south, it is definitely changing, and so there's a lot of opportunities in that regard. We've had record levels, for example, at the Porcupine Mountain State Park, where we have a ski area there, and we run the chairlifts in partnership with the operator, and we had 1,100 people, I believe, rode the chairlifts in one day last weekend. So those are unique experiences, but everywhere we've seen over 25% increase in visitation. So it's been a very strong summer once we got back going full speed and into the fall.
Ron Olson with us. He's the Chief of Parks and Recreation with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, the Michigan DNR, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. And Ron, one of the great benefits of our parks all throughout the state of Michigan are the variety of trails and trail networks that we have. And there's a unique opportunity coming up for Michigan residents in order to have a say in the visions and goals of the future of those trails and trail systems. Could you tell us a little bit about what that opportunity is for people across the state of Michigan to have their voices heard?
Well, the trail system is very robust. It's over 13,000 miles of trails, non-motorized, motorized trails. There's many more if you include the local agencies that have trails, but the network is very vast. You can go north and south, east and west, and connect to communities. We're working very hard with partnering groups to create that network. There's been some tremendous connections made in the past few years, and we're continuing to expand the Iron Bell Trail, which is a bicycle wheeled route up through the middle of the state, and then a foot travel route that goes, some of which is bicycle able to do, that goes up the western side of the state and partners with the North Country Trail and up to the UP and around. And it's created an inspiration to create connections. And so it's very vast, and there's something for everybody. And ORV riding is really exploded in the last couple of years, and that's going very well. And in fact, we just opened in partnership with it's a state county park in Oakland, Holly Oaks ORV area, excuse me. It's within the Holly State Recreation Area and adjacent to Groveland Oaks County Park. And so it's a great partnership in a old quarry area, 123 acres, ultimately it'll be 200. And that gives ORV riders a brand new opportunity that just opened a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, for us that aren't quite as savvy as you, OVR riders, what's that stand for there, Ron?
Off the road vehicles.
So in that regard, you're talking what, like snowmobiles, things of that nature?
Well, these would be wheeled vehicles and motorcycles. These are off the road equipped vehicles such as quads, they call it. They're four-wheel devices for off-road riding. And then people that have four-wheel drive Jeeps, and some people have some very hybrid vehicles that are designed with high clearance and goes up hills and over boulder fields, and it's a real challenge. And there's a variety of routes throughout that park. We do run a ORV area, off-the-road vehicle area, at Silver Lake State Park. It's called the Sand Dunes, the Silver Lake ORV area. And there it's a different experience where you're riding up and down hills and valleys on sand dunes, which is one of only 3 like it in the United States. But it's a much bigger area there, but that's very, very popular.
I would imagine if it's one of only 3, how many rescues do you have to do there each and every year with some of these inexperienced drivers taking their vehicles there?
Well, there are some. We have very stringent safety protocols that people have to have helmets, and they have to have seat belts, and they have to have other devices such as a tall flag, a 10-foot flag on their vehicle so you can see them as you dip down into lower areas. And there's speed limits and different things like that. So people do have mishaps. like anything else. And we do have a number of accidents. Fortunately, not too many are extreme, but they do happen, and it's kind of a part of the thrill and risk of riding on those devices. They have to have roll bars and different things like that, or we don't let them on. So with all those safety checks and protocols, it does make it a relatively safe recreation in the outdoors.
So many exciting things that we can do in our own backyard when we explore the state of Michigan and we get outside of our direct neighborhood. As you had mentioned, the seasons are changing. It's all about the colors right now in the state of Michigan. It's one of the things that makes our state such an amazing state to live within. If I want to go within 2 hours of Metro Detroit, what's the one area I should go to try to see the best colors right now?
Well, I would say that further north you can go. One area that's kind of on that outer limits would be Rifle River State Recreation Area, which is near Rose City. It's east of West Branch, and it's about 4,000 acres, and it's like you're in the Upper Peninsula, in the Lower Peninsula, and the Rifle River goes through, and there's lots of hills and valleys. That's a unique spot. Obviously, the further north you go, the more the colors would change currently. And I mean, obviously in Oakland County, we have a number of state parks. We have Pontiac Lake, and we have the, I mentioned, Holly State Recreation Area, which is, both of those are very large. And we have Proud Lake Recreation Area in Highland. So all of those are all, as time goes on, have very nice hills and valleys and very good views and water bodies and things like that. So any of those would be great. As you go further over, we have Island Lake Recreation Area in Brighton, which is over near the western edge of Oakland County, Livingston, and then over into Washington. So there's a lot of those kind of resources. It's not very far, and it's definitely within a 2-hour ride. In fact, from there, you can go to the Waterloo State Recreation Area, which is 20,000 acres. It's the largest public park space in southern Michigan. And adjoining that is the Pinckney Rec Area, which is over 10,000. So in that complex alone, there's probably over 30,000 acres. And it's got a plethora of trails and water bodies, streams and rivers, and things like that. And kayaking is a big deal, and it's a great way to observe the scenes from the water. Not to say you can go fishing, and the hunting seasons are commencing with bow hunting for deer and things like that. So there's a lot of variety of things that people may choose to do.
Ron Olson joining us. He's the chief of the Parks and Recreation Division at the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Ron, you touched on the variety of different trails and trail networks earlier on in the interview. Let's talk a little bit about the opportunities for people to help the trails state shape Michigan's trail management plan. It's being provided by the DNR. A series of virtual meetings being held through October 22nd, where the people of Michigan can participate and provide some insight or some ideas or just their opinions on what Michigan can do to set their further goals and vision for the betterment of the trails. Can you talk a little bit about what is available to the people to have their input heard in those virtual meetings?
Yeah, the state trail plan last was done about 6-7 years ago, and it's time for it to be updated. And that's the process that we're going through right now, because it's unique because of the COVID dynamics that we are doing. We're having a series of virtual meetings, and what we want is to encourage people to participate in those so that we can enrich and stay relevant with our trail system. And again, that involves motorized and non-motorized systems, whether it goes from all the way from mountain biking and wintertime fat biking to people that like to use rail trails that are paved, that are easy to ride on, to the motorized vehicles that people would ride on. I mentioned the ORV trails, motorcycle trails as well. In the wintertime between December and April, the snowmobile trails. But we also have equestrian trails that people ride on their horses, obviously. And so then now the emergence of water trails, which there's a lot of desire to take kayaks and go from point to point and or circular routes to experience different things. And also there's motorboat water trails too. So there's a lot of things, but in order to make them as relevant and meet the needs and to explore trends and things like that, that's why we would ask people to go on our website and participate to the extent that people are able, or to offer their comments or thoughts.
And I'm on your website. There are so many things to do, I think, that we forget about, other than boating and camping and fishing. I also saw mushroom hunting. I have some friends that are really into this, and it's kind of growing. How popular is it for people to get out into nature and hunt for mushrooms?
Well, in the appropriate season, mostly in the springtime, the morel mushrooms, for example, are a coveted thing, and a lot of people keep their spots secret and don't want to share them. But in these areas that I mentioned that are not very far from where people live, these larger expanses of land, there are definitely mushrooms, and also, of course, in the spring, wildflower searching and things like that. But in the fall, the colors and the, looking wildlife viewing and things like that are all part of it, as part of the evolution of the season. I might add that just kind of a unique thing, that we do have a text. If someone texts 80888, and they can subscribe to what's called the Bird, and you can then it's a message board for different thematic activities, and right now they're streaming out features on colors. So it's a good way to stay current if you are using your phone. But that's just something that we're working on too.
I love that thought. That's a nice way to keep people up to date, because everyone has their phone in their hands about 24 hours a day. So it's a good way to keep up to date. Ron, just a couple more minutes here with you on the Oakland County Megacast. Anything that we didn't touch on that you want the public to know before we let you go?
Well, just so that people know that we have increased our lodging opportunities, particularly as we sail into colder weather. We do have RVs that we rent in some of the parks. We also have some other kinds of lodging opportunities. We have cabins that many people will rent in the wintertime and ski and things like that. So to check those out. And obviously there's places where you can get fat tire bikes. But one thing that I wanted to feature, just for folks that want to try stuff out, there's a company we partner with called Arrive Outdoors, and you can rent snowshoes or other kinds of things for winter recreation, and they'll deliver it to you. It's obviously a fee-based program, but it gives you a chance to try out winter or outdoor equipment that you might not own, that you might want to try out. So you can go on our michigan.gov/state parks, and you can find all the access to those, along with maps and different features that might spark your interest.
That is such a smart way to do it, because I know we're on the trail and we see people out there skiing, cross-country skiing, or doing snowshoeing, and we always think, oh, we want to try that, but do you really want to invest the money in purchasing that stuff on your own. So thank you for sharing that with us. We so appreciate it. Ron Olson, he is the Chief of Parks and Recreation Division with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. As always, great to have you on, bringing us up to date as we prepare to get into that winter season. We'll be hibernating before long, but by all means, anyone, if you can take a little bit of time, get out on the trails and enjoy the beautiful colors right now, because it is a sight to be seen. Ron, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, and enjoy yourself. Thank you.
Enjoy the fall and happy winter, but I'm sure we'll have you on before then as well. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios of CivicCenterTV.com 89.3, along with the one, the only, Tyler Keefe. Sorry, Tyler, I'm just sitting here trying to read. There's breaking news coming out. They are going to have a 1 o'clock press conference this afternoon to talk about a militia plot that could potentially involve what was deemed, the feds are saying, to kidnap the governor. That's going to be held at 1 o'clock with the Michigan State Police, as well as the U.S. attorneys for the Eastern District and Western District and the AG's office. So we'll continue to monitor that for you as the day goes on. So a little bit of breaking news that we are going to continue to follow for you throughout the afternoon. But in the meantime, there's been a lot of breaking news going on in the world of sports, especially hockey. Ansar Khan joins us on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the Detroit Red Wings and Detroit Pistons beat writer for MLive. Always great having you on the show. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Busy couple days for you, I would imagine, watching the draft.
Yeah, certainly was. 12 picks over the 2 days. Their largest class since 1993. They kept trading down 3 or 4 times and added 3 additional picks, and that's what Yzerman had said before the draft. The more picks, the better.
Yeah, Steve Yzerman definitely loading up on the young talent and the draft capital in this particular draft. 6 of the top 70 picks. Let's start off with their first pick in the draft. They, of course, in the draft lottery, they had very high odds of selecting in the first 3 picks, and much like the oddities of the draft lottery affected them last year, it affected them again this year, and the Red Wings ended up selecting 4th overall. With that 4th overall, they passed on a variety of different players. One of the top-rated defensemen, a great young goalie in Yaroslav Askarov from Russia that brought a lot of comparisons to some Hall of Fame level goalies that have come before him, and ended up selecting an 18-year-old left winger, Lucas Raymond. Talk to us a little bit about Lucas Raymond for those who are not familiar with this young prospect and what he may bring to the Red Wings farm system going forward, and eventually to the Red Wings in Detroit.
Well, apparently he's the guy that the Red Wings had targeted for quite a while. It was determined that they would get the 4th pick. Being number 4, there's a separation there. Alexis Lafreniere was the clear-cut number 1 pick, and then everybody knew that 2 and 3 would be Quentin Byfield and Tim Stützle in either order. And then there was a bit of a separation. The draft essentially starting with the Red Wings at number 4. It could have gone any number of ways. There's probably 4 or 5 legitimate possibilities for them. Yzerman and Chris Draper both said that Raymond was the guy that they had identified long ago as the guy that stood out above that group, and that didn't change over the last few months. And they really liked the whole package there. He's not particularly big, 5'11", but he's fast. He's a good skater, tremendous shot, good stick handling ability, good passer. And the one thing that really stood out to them that they mentioned over and over again was just his hockey sense and his hockey IQ. They say that that's something that is just in you. You can't really teach. And they said that that's really one of his strong suits. And as far as when Wings fans can expect to see him, it'll still be a while yet. Yzerman indicated he's in Sweden playing right now. The Swedish league is one of the few leagues that are actually throughout this pandemic haven't shut down. So he's playing there, and Yzerman indicated he's likely going to stay there for the rest of the season, and then they'll evaluate things at the start of 2021-22 as to where he goes, whether he has a chance to come to North America or whether they keep him in Sweden for another season.
Ansar Khan with us, Detroit Red Wings beat writer, Detroit Pistons beat writer as well, with MLive Media Group, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast as we talk about the Detroit Red Wings, who had 6 of the top 70 picks in the recent NHL draft, entry draft. And you mentioned that Lucas Raymond will continue to play in Sweden for the time being, probably for at least a few years before being brought into North America and possibly to play for the Red Wings. And it's possible, too, that a lot of other Red Wings players in their minor league system may be sent and assigned to play overseas, especially with the uncertainty of whether or not their primary minor league team, that being the Grand Rapids Griffins, whether or not they may even get a season in. Do you expect to see more of the Red Wings minor league system, particularly those guys that are close to being ready to play in Detroit, maybe be sent overseas to get that last little bit of professional action before they're ready to play for the Wings? Or do you think that they risk it and hope that there is a season to be played for the Grand Rapids Griffins?
Well, they've already assigned quite a few, I think about 8 or 9 at last count, of their prospects, young players, to European clubs. And I don't know if they have any more that they would be sending over there now. I think that's pretty much, they want to get their top prospects, the younger guys, obviously, they want them to keep playing. They want them to keep developing and not just sitting around and working out in gyms. They want them on the ice, and they were able to find spots for them in various European leagues. Of course, the problem is some of these leagues might be shutting down. I think word is that the Czech League is being suspended for 2 weeks now. They've got a few players there, including Filip Hranek and Filip Sedina. The German League it was suspended until at least December, which is why they reassigned Moritz Seider, their top pick in 2019, from Mannheim, his original German club, to a team in the Swedish league. They just announced that today. So, they've got several players over there. I think the ones that are in Sweden, and I think there's one or two in Finland, are okay. Looks like they'll continue playing. But the ones, in other leagues like the Czech Republic, on a little bit of shaky ground right now.
So, Ansar, you're in communications covering the Red Wings with Steve Yzerman, with Chris Draper, with Jeff Blashill, and this team as they're going forward in this rebuild. They're still several years away from really contending, but with Yzerman's MO in this draft being to load up on as many draft picks as he can get and get as much talent in, and with some recent actions, of course, in the last couple of years, trading away some of those more veteran players to bring in some of those assets and picks and clear some space to pursue other players in free agency and so on. Where do you see the Red Wings rebuild as of now? Are they loading up on these assets, building their minor league system so that they can accelerate this rebuild and try to use those assets to bring in more talent? Or are they slowly but surely trying to develop a team and do so with young talent that will eventually make its way to the NHL, and at one point maybe they just end up being loaded with that talent because of how they fostered their minor league system?
Well, certainly they're doing it through the draft, and that's really the only way you can go these days in the NHL. That's something that Yzerman stated time and again. The more picks, the better. The more picks you have, the better chance that more of those players will eventually find their way to the NHL. This isn't 20 years ago when you could revamp your team through free agency, which we saw the Red Wings do, pulling in so many big-name free agents back before there was a cap. They could outspend virtually every other team because of Mike Ilitch's willingness to do that. And there was more, as a result, there were more big-name free agents on the market back then, but it's a different game now under the salary cap. Everybody plays by the same rules. There are fewer big-name free agents on the market. You have to really build from the draft, and that's what the Wings are doing. As far as how long, they've missed the playoffs 4 years in a row now. Where they are in terms of the rebuild, based on their performance last year, they got a long ways to go. I mean, they finished 23 points behind the next worst team in the league. So this is a team that's still, several years away from being real competitive as far as a contender, and probably at least a couple of years away from even competing for the playoff spot. One of their main problems has been, despite finishing near the bottom, and last year at the very bottom, they're getting kind of screwed over in the lottery. They've dropped each of the last 4 years. They've dropped a few positions in the lottery. This year, they should have had the first pick based on their record. They dropped to fourth. That makes a huge difference. Even as much as they like Lucas Raymond and think he's going to be a real good player for them, you get an Alexis Lafreniere, and that kind of changes the outlook a little bit. A bona fide potential superstar, and that's what they need. Those kind of players. You need like a Sidney Crosby, and Alex Ovechkin, Connor McDavid. Those are the kind of players that really accelerate rebuilds, and those are the kind of players that the Red Wings haven't been in position to get, and that's why it's going to take longer for this team to get back to where it was.
Yeah, certainly a long ways to go with the Detroit Red Wings rebuild. Ansar Khan with us, the Detroit Red Wings and Pistons beat writer for MLive. We've seen Yzerman do it before. He's done it in Tampa Bay. He built through the draft mostly there. And Tampa Bay, of course, the Lightning have been contending for many years, a Stanley Cup winner, of course, in this season. So let's move on to the Pistons as we have just a few more minutes here. Their offseason still very much in its infancy. The NBA season's not even done. That could be a much different story in the next 24 hours with the Lakers up 3-1 over the Miami Heat and the Eastern Conference, representing the Eastern Conference. The draft scheduled for November 18th. The Pistons got the 7th overall pick in the draft lottery. Not exactly a loaded draft, but there are a lot of pieces there, and particularly at the positions that the Detroit Pistons need, most notably point guard. And on top of that, they're going to have enough cap space to make a couple of moves maybe in free agency as well. There are guys out there that could fit into the Dwayne Casey system and be nice pieces to add with the youth for the rebuild going forward. What are the Pistons' goals in terms of what they want to accomplish with this rebuild, with this revamped rebuild this offseason?
Certainly, first of all, you're talking about the draft. They really need a point guard. That's their biggest position of need. And where they are in the draft, although they're also like the Wings, they dropped a couple of spots in the draft from where their position was based on standings from 5th to 7th. But I don't think that hurts them as much as it hurt the Wings, because outside of in the NBA, outside of maybe the first 3 picks, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, and James Wiseman were expected to be the top 3. It's fairly balanced over the next maybe 7 to 10 picks, and I think if the Pistons are, and they should be able to get one of 2 point guards, Killian Hayes out of he's a French guy who played in the German league, and Tyrese Halliburton, who played at Iowa State. My guess would be that they're targeting one of those 2 guys, point guards, good-sized point guards, 6'5". If they can get one of those 2, I think it would be a successful draft for them. I would be surprised if both of them are gone by number 7. So that's certainly the main goal right now. And then you've got they just got to improve internally. Their younger players like Sekou Doumbouya, Bruce Brown took a good step last year when he was transitioned to point guard, although he'll be moving back to wing, his natural position next season. Sfim Kalik showed some signs, he's the kind of shooter that they really need. And then as far as free agency goes, they've got a lot of cap space, but they're certainly not going to use it, or if they use it, it would be on, acquiring kind of salary dumps, players with expiring contracts who they can move out at the trade deadline, for second round picks or whatever. It's a fairly weak free agent class, and there's no need to get yourself locked in a multi-year deal with anybody really right now. I mean, certainly there's top players like Fred VanVleet, who's been mentioned quite often, but I can't see why he would want to go from Toronto, championship contender, to Detroit, even though he has ties with Dwayne Casey, and there's some others, but I think 2021 would be the year. It's a better free agent class that they would look to fill some of their needs there.
Yeah, definitely looking like that's going to be the case, especially as we get closer to Blake Griffin's rather large contract coming off the cap. Ansar Khan with us from MLive Media Group, the Detroit Red Wings and Pistons beat writer. We thank you for being with us today. Before we let you go, just about a minute left. Anything else that you'd like to tell us today?
No, just a lot of uncertainty about when the NHL is going to start. Gary Bettman announced a couple of days ago at the draft that they're targeting January the 1st. Certainly that's the hope. It's a best case scenario, and it'll be interesting to see whether they still plan on playing 82 games or not, and if they do, it would certainly have to go through August to get that in. whether I think it would be probably more prudent just to play a condensed 48 game schedule like they have a couple times recently during lockout shortened years.
It's all still a wait and see game. NFL as well as hockey, football, baseball, as well as basketball. It's changing each and every day. Ansar, we thank you so much for your time. That's going to wrap it up for the Thursday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. We'll be back here tomorrow morning.